Ah, come have a seat. You look just like your father, General Dugash. We were down and facing extinction when he led us to victory against the elves. He gave us culture and insight, and brought us together as a species. We owe your father our lives, and that is why I pledge mine. Let me show you what I've uncovered. I found a way to finally get the revenge we've longed for. I have discovered total control of the Witchlight Marauders.
Before General Dugash, the Scro were highly militaristic. The Scro resemble muscle-bound orcs, fully armored and armed to the teeth. They have orcs' characteristic pig-like snout. However, they stand proud and erect. Their high foreheads resemble humanity's. Scro have a large canine teeth that they sharpen to a fine point. They decorate the teeth and ears with tribal mini-totems. Scro's eyes appear human, but they glow a sickly phosphorescent green in the dim light. Their hide color ranges from slate gray, burnt orange, light tan, and moss green to jet black, and even in rare cases albino white. Their armor is well oiled and maintains studded leather, with each stud filled to a sharp point. It is always jet black, and the studs are painted different colors. Their weapons are well maintained. They often complete their wardrobe with night blue cloaks. The Scro carry no standards. They usually wear an insignia that identifies their tribe, maybe a patch or on the left side of the chest. The Scro love to combat. They have raised it to the highest form of expression in their society. They fight easily in any environment and are well disciplined. The Scro can be just as bloodthirsty as orcs. They have tempered their savagery with pragmatism and strategic and tactical cunning. Scro actually obey most of the civilized rules of warfare and do not fire on messengers or truce bearers. For every 4 Scro encountered, there is 1 sergeant. For every 10 Scro encountered, there is 1 captain and 1 war priest. Only the largest gathering of Scro include an almighty leader. The almighty leader always carries a star wheel. The vast majority of Scro warriors specialize in unarmed combat, which gives them 2 punches per round. Scro armor spikes cause 1d4 damage to any foe that the Scro smashes against. Some nasty Scro even coat their armors in poison. If all else fails, a Scro will bite with his powerful teeth. If a Scro kills an opponent with its teeth, the triumphant warrior affixes a small gem or bauble on one of its oversized canines. It then takes a tooth from the opponent and puts it in a necklace called a torgok. This necklace is a prized totem of strength. If it is stolen, the warrior flies into a berserk rage against the offender. Strangely, the Scro are notably articulate. They prefer to begin combat by shouting long, literate insults against their opponents to show that they hold their enemies in contempt. The mere sight of the goblinoid spouting offensive alliterations might disorient most combat-hardened veteran long enough to let the Scro gain initiative in combat. Direct sunlight does not affect the Scro in combat. The Scro live in regimented society based on the complex systems of laws and customs that calls for unswerving loyalty and obedience. Each Scro is a valued member to society and has a duty to fulfill. Leaders are respected and obey unless they are obvious cowards in battle. In that case, the strongest Scro's duty is to overthrow the coward and lead the troop into glorious battle. The Scro's homeworld location is unknown. Thus far, they have seldom ventured into civilized areas, preferring to keep out of sight until they are truly ready. On the homeworld Dugash, the Scro live in well-planned, Spartan cities with stout towers, strong fortresses, and efficient shipyards. Though the place is no garden spot, neither is it smoky, ugly, or garbage-strewn. Each city has about 10,000 to 100,000 Scro. Each of Dugash's 24 tribes is led by an almighty leader. The entire planet is ruled by the ultimate High Overlord, who is guarded by 24 captains, 1 from each tribe. Each tribe has a social rank, and those lower rank subordinates to the higher tribes. Scro are not interested in conquering the multiverse. Their sole purpose is to drive all groundling human, demi-human, humanoid races out of wild space for good. The war priests see this, not planetary conquest, as their holy mission. As for races native to wild space, well, the Scro will need slave labor, and those pitiful races will do quite nicely. The Scro are merely waiting for the right moment to strike. The Scro have an us against the whole multiverse philosophy, and is sure to produce plenty of enemies when they make their presence felt. Thus far, the Scro know much about the other spacefaring races, but those races are unaware of the Scro's existence, save for a few rumors from unreliable sources. Unlike Orcish ancestors, the Scro will live to an average of 80 years. The Scro trace their ancestries back to the Orc tribes that fought and lost the Unhuman Wars. Some crews and troops of the few surviving Orc vessels made their way to a remote but habitable planet to settle down. This ragtag band was led by a huge Orc named Dugash, who appointed himself the first almighty leader. By Orc standards, Dugash was a visionary. He recognized that the Orcs lost the Unhuman Wars because of their one-dimensional ideas and outmoded tactics. Brutality for its own sake had gotten them nowhere. Dugash realized that the Orcs needed to fight in an organized way, and that each soldier must realize his full potential. In ensuing years, Dugash whipped his people into shape, making sure they learned to fight, survival, and even culture. To make sure no one forgot who caused the Orcs' misfortune, each Orc had to learn fluent Elvish. Sometimes the Orcs salvaged equipment from drifting space junk, the remains of human, Elven, Dwarven, and Goblinoid ships from the Unhuman War battles. Occasionally they found books, and Dugash made his people read them. Before Dugash died, he declared that his people were on the path to success. The old ways were dead, he claimed, and a new race was born, a race that was more than any Orc could be. He named them the Scro. At his death, his grateful followers named their homeworld in his honor. Dugash's tomb now floats over the homeworld's North Pole, so that the deceased leader may look down on his people and watch their progress. The Orc shamans created the Witchlight Marauders during the escalation of the Unhuman Wars to counter the ruthless elf aggression. As one surviving Orc scroll reads, "In truth, the Marauders were shock troops, organic's first strike weapons meant to devastate the whole elven planets. Their efficiency as killing machines was matched only by their fast breeding. Luckily for the rest of the humanoid civilization, these monsters were wiped out during the Unhuman Wars. There are Orcish legends, however, of a time-stop device that preserves some of these beasts as a doomsday weapons. In combat, the slug-like land Marauders were enormous, 500 plus feet, dwarfing even venerable red dragons. Everything in the Witchlight Marauders' path, plants, animals, city walls, even mountains, were food for the beast's cavernous central maw. Secondary mouths sprouted to gobble up prey on either side of the beast's path. Land Marauders even liked metal, mineral deposits, and even magic items. All food made its way to the blast furnace gut, producing poisonous gas and more Witchlight Marauders. As the Marauder gorged itself, it periodically ejected secondary Marauders. These smaller 20-foot tall killers leapt forth, rending and killing with 6 poisonous metal talons and steel teeth and a sweeping spiked tail. The secondaries also spat an acid jet and could climb on nearly any surface with their gripping feet. These monsters ravaged the countryside, covering miles in a single night, homing in on the scent of elven blood, destroying all survivors in their primaries' attack. Once the secondaries gorged themselves on living flesh, they ejected still smaller fighters. These small, 4-foot tall, were berserker warriors with 2 metal sword blades in place of their hands. Their strength and agility made them fearsome in combat. After a week's foraging, the primary Marauder burrowed deep underground to establish a lair. In the 2 weeks that followed, guarded by secondaries, the primary split like an amoeba into 2 primary Marauders. The cycle continued until the Marauders ran out of food, where they turned on and destroyed each other. These land Marauders reached their targets via still larger creatures, a space Marauder. These enormous 1,000-foot reptilian horrors traveled through wild space on sails spun from special organs on their bodies. These sails doubled as focusing mirrors, enabling a space beast to focus a deadly 25d10 sunbeam on targets. Once they reach a crystal sphere, they phase their way in, searching for small celestial bodies to feed on. Like their smaller kin, flying marauders ate any being, rock, or small moon they found, creating both land marauders and explosive projectiles. The space-going marauders were enormous. The crocodilian head sported a nest of thousands of yard-long razor-sharp teeth. This head was encrusted with glowing red eyes. Surrounding the central head were 6 long, flexible necks, ending in eyeless heads with gaping, ship-smashing maws. The scaly vein neck were attached to a tree trunk-shaped body that terminated in a pulsing mass of writhing, hawser-like tentacles. At the center of the squirming mass were umbilicals, to which were attached these 3 primary marauders. As individual primaries reached maturity and detached, no one grew in their places. As individual primaries reached maturity and detached, new ones grew in its place. In addition to the land marauders, the spacers could also birth 1d4+1 remote feeders. These were little more than gigantic 550 feet diameter flying gullets that would engulf matter from planets, digest it, and return it to the mother beast to provide it with additional nourishment. These solitary war beasts were bred and unleashed by the Orcish mages for the use in the Unhuman Wars. The Orcs' overall objective was a scorched earth strategy that would leave the Elven worlds lifeless and barren rocks. Fortunately, the Elven forces found out about the plan before the Witchlight Marauders were unleashed. Using their own new weapons, the Bionodes and the Spirit Warriors, they attacked and destroyed the Orcs. Some old scrolls hint that some of the Space Marauders escaped the Elves' onslaught, burning its way through the Elven blockade into space. Elven sages refused to comment on this, dismissing the writings as Orcish propaganda. During the Unhuman Wars, the Orcish breeders developed creatures that were meant to counter the threat of the Elven Spirit Warriors. It was thought that the elves eradicated all of the Doomsday weapons, but apparently a few may have survived either by encapsulation in a time-stop fields or by wandering into star lanes. If an adventuring party were to find one of these organic time bombs, it would behoove them to leave the area immediately. Adventures. There's plenty to work with the Scro. They worship Dargosh, who resides over their planet. What type of god is he? This is also a great opportunity to give the Orcs more nuance and develop a more scholarly appeal. Low level. Have your party stumble onto a Scro that wants to help them uncover more information on the Witchlight Marauders because he doesn't want them to destroy the world. Mid-level. Have your party get captured and sold to the Scro and need to find a way off the ship before it reaches Dugash. High level. The Scro has unleashed the Midnight Marauders, and your adventurers need to stop them before it multiplies and destroys the universe. I hope you like the Scro and the Midnight Marauders. They both have an interesting hook to them that you could mine for story purposes. If you enjoyed this and want more, please like and subscribe. Thank you and have a great day.